Hello everyone, and welcome back. Bugsnax is a nice little game featuring fun characters, cute monster design, silly gameplay, body horror, and a surprisingly adult and mature story. In order to get through the end of this truly bizarre adventure, we need to feed countless of our friends the titular Bugsnax, but here's the thing, I'm a vegan, and according to internet stereotypes, that means I have to push my beliefs on everyone else. Can you beat Bugsnax on a vegan diet? Our goal is to get to the end of the game as well as completing all of the side quests while not feeding any other Grumpus a Bugsnax that snack portion would break a vegan diet. I'll be upfront, we can't get through the game keeping every single character vegan. The challenge would end in the second area, so instead, we're just gonna see which characters we can make it through. I made this chart up featuring all of the main characters of the game. Next to each is two checkboxes. The one on the left is for their dietary status through the mandatory content of the game, and on the right is for their personal side quest stories. If said character is unable to make it through either the main game or side story on a vegan diet, they'll get a red X. If they can't make it through vegan but can make it through vegetarian, they'll get a green circle. This doesn't really mean much since the challenge is a vegan one and not a vegetarian one, but I figured it was still worth charting. Finally, they'll receive a pink tick if they're able to get through completely vegan. Now, I could just say that every Bugsnax in the game is based off a vegan alternative, so I can just feed them all to the Grumpuses and beat the game normally. I could then segue into the moral that nowadays being vegan is super easy and you should give it a go, but in my household, there are no morals. We'll determine if a Bugsnax counts as vegan depending on if the snack portion's IRL basis is most commonly found vegan or not. So, for example, cheese poof wouldn't be vegan because most cheese flavoured things contain some sort of dairy, but cookie would be since the most similar and common cookie to them are Oreos, which are actually vegan. With all of that said, let's get into it. Can you beat Bugsnax on a vegan diet? We open up on a flying ship approaching a mysterious island. After checking our map, our ship's bashed into by what looks like a flying pizza, sending us plummeting down to the island. After a little bit of exploring and trying to ignore the shadowy creatures crawling around, we have another fall and end up knocked out, causing us to flash back to just how we got into this situation. We were contacted by one Lisbeth Megafig, an explorer who, along with her partner Agabel and a ragtag group of Grumpuses, made off for the mysterious Snacktooth Island, and there discovered a new type of irresistible and delicious food, Bugsnax. Since we're a reporter, she's asked us to come to Snacktooth Island to write an article about their discoveries. Due to Lisbeth's spotty reputation, our boss thinks the whole idea is stupid, but agrees to let us go, seemingly just to get us out of her hair. We wake back up and see a strange strawberry creature with Google eyes that dashes away from us. Guess we hit our head pretty hard. Soon we come across an opening, and laying in the middle of it is a strange man. This is Filbo, one of Lisbeth's expedition crew. He's apparently delirious from starvation and thinks we're Lisbeth. Once he realizes we're not, he asks us if we could please get him something to eat. Just to his left is one of those strawberry things we saw earlier. This is apparently a Bugsnax, a Strabby to be more specific, and Filbo gives us his snack trap so that we can catch it for him. You can scan the Strabby with your camera to see its tracks and then place the snack trap in its path. Once the Strabby is in range, we can set off the trap and retrieve it to score our first Bugsnax. Filbo will congratulate us and ask us to feed it to him. Since Strabby is based off a fruit, it should be pretty obvious that it's vegan, meaning we can feed it to Filbo no problem. Once we feed it to him, what the hell?
This? Pretty neat, huh? It's a side effect of eating Bugsnax.
And you still eat them? Turns out, this is a completely normal process called snackification, where when someone eats one of these Bugsnax, part of their body will take on its traits. Filbo's still a little hungry and asks us to collect 3 more snacks for him. There are 2 more Strabbies in the area, one behind this rock and the other up this cliff. There's also a Roodle just downstream which is caught in an almost identical manner. Once again, Roodle is based off a vegetable, that being a carrot, and as such is entirely vegan, so we can feed these to Filbo. Once full, he realizes we're the journalist Lisbeth asked to come along and agrees to take us back to town, but lets us know that Lisbeth's missing at the moment, but he's hopeful she might have returned while he was out, so on we go. Before we can get into town, we have to pass through Garden Grove, and here we meet another member of Lisbeth's crew, Wambus, who doesn't seem to have much respect for Filbo. He's a farmer, and since Liz went missing and stopped bringing snacks back for people to eat, the sauce he grows is the only real food for everyone. He's been having a lot of trouble growing anything though ever since he moved his farm to Garden Grove due to interference from the local Bugsnax. When Filbo says he should move his farm back to town and call this one quits, he gets furious and tells us to leave before throwing one of his ketchup plants at Filbo. This attracts a nearby Bunga who sends Filbo flying, and Wambus asks us to deal with it. To do this, we're given a new tool, the slingshot, which we can use to shoot sauce around. Since different Bugsnax love or hate different sauces, we can use these to lead them around and manipulate their behaviour. Create a path of saucy goodness to lure the bunga into the nearby pen, and Wambus will trap it inside. Go check up on Filbo, who's a little sore but fine. Wambus apologises for getting Filbo hurt and admits he was right and that this farm isn't working, but his pride won't let him leave. At least not without getting one over on the local Bugsnax that have been harassing him by, eating them. First, he wants a Frider. Place a trap down near one of these dudes and smother it with ketchup to lure the Frider in for the catch. Now, there are some methods of cooking or seasoning fries that aren't vegan, but for the most part, these are just hot potato sticks, which is vegan. His next request is a little more problematic though. He wants us to catch and feed him 2 shish kebabs. These are based off shish kebabs, which can be vegan, but these ones clearly have a big chunk of meaty whatever in the middle, making them a forbidden treat. I thought maybe we could get out of bounds and sneak into the next area, skipping over this feeding. We can actually get over the fence and use these trees to get into Beffica's cave early, but nothing we do can seem to get us over the wall into the next area. This skip is actually kind of intended, as if you grab Beffica's journal early here, when she asks you to go grab it later, she'll comment on how weird it is that you already have it. Unfortunately, nothing else I tried to get out of bounds worked, meaning that Wambus is our first casualty in the vegan diet run. We can catch 2 shishka bugs by placing a trap in front of and coating the bushes they hide in with tomato sauce, then luring a bunga close enough to ram into the bush, causing the shishka bug to run straight out into our trap. I had thought of making this Scott Pilgrim rules, i.e. 3 strikes and you're out, but that wouldn't help as Wambus' next request is for a bunga to chow down on. Now, vegan burgers are getting more and more prevalent, but for the most part, when people think of a burger, it's usually a meaty one. Bungas are too big to be trapped normally. By luring 2 near each other and then coating one in tomato sauce, the other will bash into it, knocking it unconscious and allowing us to trap it with ease. With all of Wambus' business taken care of, he agrees to come back to town. Before we can leave, we run into Beffica, who seems to have even less respect for Filbo than Wambus does. She does take a shining to us though, and if we haven't already gotten it, it lets us take a spare journal and teaches us how to use it. This shows us all of the Bugsnax we've collected and Grumpuses we've met, as well as keeping track of the mystery as it unfolds. It also lets us fast travel from location to location, which is what we'll be using it for mostly. We can't get her to come back with us just yet, so we'll have to come back. With that, Filbo clears the path and we can continue on to Snacksburg. Looking over the town, it seems a little on the sad and lifeless side of things. Follow Filbo further in and he'll apologise that we won't be getting an interview with Lisbeth, as it seems like she's still nowhere to be found. As a consolation, we settle with interviewing him to get a better idea of just what happened here. Turns out, him and Lisbeth were old friends. Whenever Liz would go out exploring or hunting, Filbo would be left in charge, though no one respected him as much as they did Lisbeth, so when she never came back one day, everyone got into a big fight and went their separate ways. Despite lacking Lisbeth's leadership, Filbo seems to genuinely care about the well-being of all the other Grumpuses, and beats himself up over not being able to keep them all safe and together. After we finish interviewing him, Filbo asks if we could use our bug snatch catching abilities and the fact that nobody hates us yet to try and convince people to come back to town, with the incentive that we can interview those we get back and try to piece together more of the mystery of what happened. He points us in the direction of Gramble, the town rancher, as well as saying we could always go back and get Beffica, but before we do anything, we should explore the town a little and get a feel for things. In Lisbeth and Egbel's hut, we can find a recording of the two showing that they had a good relationship. Egbel would patch up Liz after hunting trips, and Lisbeth would bring back new delicious snacks for Egg to try. Since we've already got Wambus back in town, we can interview him. He's a proud man and one of few words. He came to Snacktooth to start a farm with his wife Triffany, but they've been growing distant both emotionally and physically due to his over-focusing on farming and her work as an archaeologist keeping her out of town. When Lisbeth vanished, the town rancher wouldn't give up any of his bug snacks, so Wambus took it upon himself to feed the people with his sauce, but we've already seen how those efforts went. As for Lisbeth, he has a deep respect for her, but doubts that she's still alive, probably being swallowed up by one of the earthquakes plaguing the island. He does give us a small scrap of paper he found detailing some strange device Liz found that requires 3 Grumpuses to activate. With all our business in town done, let's head to Simmering Springs to look for Gramble. Before we get a chance to explore, we're interrupted by some sort of scientist researching snackification. Apparently they've invented a device to control which body parts are changed when a Bugsnax is consumed, and they want us to help test this out on themselves. Luckily, they provide us with a strategy to test this with, keeping this experiment completely vegan. Once their device is proven effective, they let us keep it for field testing before disappearing. Down the path a bit, we come across Gramble being serenaded by the one, the only, Wiggle Wigglebottom. God, I love the character names in this game. She seems to be somewhat infatuated with him, though that might just be a ploy to get at his Bugsnax. It's not really working that well, as he's just concerned that she's scaring him. After she leaves, we can talk to him ourselves. Turns out, while everyone else's reactions to Bugsnax is delicious, his is more, aw, adorable, seeing them as more of pets than food, hence why he wouldn't let anyone eat those in his ranch when Lisbeth disappeared. After he's convinced we're not here to eat his snacks, he asks us to please help him find and return some of his lost pets. To do this, he gives us a new tool, Sprout, a Strabby and a hamster ball who we can control around with this laser pointer. First, we need to get Gramble's 3 lost peel bugs. Place your trap outside the tunnels they hide in and place Sprout at the other end and direct him into the hole. This forces the peel bug out the other end and into our trap. Once we have all 3 returned to Gramble, who will thank us for our help but is concerned we might have scared the little ones by trapping them, so asked us to get his next pets a pair of Queebles without trapping them. To do this, we can harvest some of the local chocolate sauce and coat Sprout in them, then move him near to the Queebles. Since they love chocolate, they'll now follow Sprout around, meaning we can lead them straight to Gramble. After this, he agrees to return to Snacksburg. Now, while all of the snacks involved in this quest are fruits and therefore vegan, it's kind of a moot point as Gramble doesn't eat any of them anyway. While exploring around the area, you might find Wiggle. She's a famous singer / one-hit wonder who decided to follow Lisbeth to Snacktooth to find inspiration, and she thinks she's found it in the form of voring a bunch of Bugsnax. She asks us to give her a new hairdo in the form of a Pinantula, and like all Bugsnax based off fruit and veg, these ones are going to be vegan. They dig under the ground and while in this state are uncatchable. Since they're afraid of Crabbles, and Crabbles are attracted to chocolate sauce, we can coat the Pinantula in chocolate sauce to draw a Crabble near to panic them out of the ground and into the range of our trap. We feed these to Wiggle, but alas, it doesn't do the trick, so she asks us to maybe try getting her a grape Skeeto. These only come out at night, so sleep till midnight in Wiggle's chair, then go on the hunt. These things are too fast to catch normally, but they can't help themselves around chocolate sauce. Shoot it on something and wait for them to bloat from drinking too much, making them easy to scoop up. Even after eating this, Wiggle still isn't feeling inspired and comes to the conclusion that no snack on the beach will help her and instead asks us to get her one from the Scorching Gorge. This is an area a good chunk later into the game, so we'll have to come back to this, and in the meantime we can go to Garden Grove and see Beffica again. As we pass through town, now that they're both back, we can see that Wambus and Gramble really don't get along, with Wambus not so subtly threatening to eat Gramble's pets. Kinda screwed up, dude. Now back in Garden Grove, all sorts of new snacks have come out to play, and for our first request from Beffica, she asks us to scan and log all of the critters in the area. She also gives us some insight that not all snacks are out at the same time of day, which is good to keep in mind. After we scan everything, she reveals that she's actually a bit of a fan of ours and wants to see our journalistic skills in action by testing us to find out her favourite snack and feed it to her. With a little bit of sleuthery, we can figure out that she's fond of weenie worms, which we can find over near Wambus's old farm. They're based off hot dogs, which are made up of a good deal of ingredients. Unfortunately for us though, one of those ingredients is usually meat. So does this mean that we can't get Beffica back to town while keeping her vegan? Well, as far as the game's concerned, yes, but who cares about the game's opinion? Go back into town and head for Gramble's ranch. Jump up onto the fence, then the donation box, and then onto the roof of the nearby hut. Now jump from roof to roof until you're on top of the hut nearest to the mountain and drawbridge. Do a big jump towards the mountain, making sure to clear the stream, as if we land in the water, the game will figure out what we're doing and try to stop us in our tracks. Now that we're officially out of bounds, walk into this little corner and just keep jumping into it. This could take quite a few attempts, but just keep jumping over and over and eventually you'll be able to get a bit of a perch on a piece of geometry, then back your way into the load zone for Sugar Pine Woods. This is an area we shouldn't get access to until a good bit later into the game. If we head back into town, we find that apparently while we were busy jumping into a rock, we were also apparently getting Grumpuses back to Snacksburg, as both Beffica and Wiggle, as well as the hitherto unmet Triffany, have set up shop here. Since we're coming back to Snacksburg from Sugar Pine Woods, the game just assumes we must have completed every quest it takes to get there and progresses the story up to that point. Do note from my experiments this only works if we physically walk from Sugar Pine Woods back to Snacksburg, and if we instead fast travel around, the game won't register us as having completed everyone's quest. Now that there are more Grumpuses around, we can do some more interviewing. Let's start with Gramble. As we know, he's the town rancher. He joined Lisbeth's expedition team as he thought they'd be like a family, which he says he could use due to some event having happened with his old family. That's why he refuses to let anyone eat his Bugsnax after Liz disappeared, since he saw them as part of his family as well. As for Liz, he says some nights he wakes up in the middle of the woods and thinks he sees her watching over him like a vengeful spirit. He also gives us Lisbeth's diary key that she dropped in his barn a while back, which we can use soon. Next, let's talk to Wiggle. We don't really learn much we don't already know about her, though she does insist that her interest in Gramble isn't just a means to get at his snacks. She also says that on the night Liz disappeared, she went looking for her in the woods but came across a giant creature she calls the Queen of Bugsnax and fears Liz might have fallen victim to the creature. She gives us a map so we can go check out where she saw the Bugsnax Queen herself. We can follow this to Sugar Pine Woods where we find Liz's backpack as well as another video diary. Next up is Beffica. She's got a passion for gossip which seems to have gotten her into some trouble on the mainland, hence she came to Snacktooth Island to get away from the consequences of her actions. Turns out she left town for a similar reason. When Liz disappeared, another grumpus, Cromdo, started raiding her hut and selling off what he took. Beffica exposed him and got out of Dodge before he could retaliate. According to her, before Liz disappeared, her and Eggabell got into a big fight, and trying to be optimistic, she thinks they're probably just off somewhere working on their relationship. She gives us the key to Lisbeth's cabinet, which she has for some reason, and using this we can get another video diary. In this one, we see Eggabell struggled with some bad mental health, feeling useless compared to everyone else and like a burden to Liz despite being the town doctor. We can also watch the video diary we got from following Wiggle's map earlier. This one shows the fight between Egg and Liz. Apparently, to feel useful, Eggabell was letting Floofty, the scientist we met earlier, experiment on her by feeding her Bugsnax, which worried Liz due to the extreme body modification, and when she raised her concerns, the two got into an argument. We have one last interview to conduct for now, that being with Triffany. She wanted to come to Snacktooth to follow in her grandmother's footsteps, the legendary adventurer Bronicalotta blog. Her fascination with Bugsnax comes more from a historical standpoint. She spent most of her time out on the dig site studying ancient Grumpus civilization on the island, and when the big fight happened, she just stopped coming back altogether. Unfortunately, she doesn't have much hope for Lisbeth, saying she was probably swallowed up by one of the earthquakes going around. She does give us a journal Liz left with her, but unfortunately it's locked, though with the key Gramble gave us, that can be easily fixed. Inside is a piece of paper with half a code on it for some device Liz found. That's enough interviewing for now, so head back to Sugar Pine Woods. Here we meet Chandler and Snorpy, a bit of an odd couple. Chandler is a beefcake meathead with a heart of gold, and Snorpy is a conspiracy theorist inventor. If we talk to Chandler, he says the only reason he won't come back to town is because being around people gives Snorpy anxiety. We can go talk to Snorpy, but he's a little sussy-wussy of us, so to test our trustworthiness, he gives us his new invention, the Snack Grabber, and asks us to help Chandler. The Snack Grabber lets us, go figure, grab snacks and other things from a longer distance. We can use this to grab Chandler's lost basketballs for him and put them back in his bucket. Chandler's impressed with the grabber and now wants us to use it to grab him a nearby sinner snail to eat. I was having a bit of trouble figuring out how to get this one, but it doesn't actually even really matter since this snack is based off a cinnamon roll, and as far as I know, most cinnamon rolls aren't vegan, meaning feeding it to Chandler would break his vegan edge. So is that it for Chandler's veganity? Well, once again, kinda yes, but no, not really. If we walk over to the entrance to the next area, we can jump up onto this rock, and from here jump onto the next one. Just like with the last lot of jumping into rocks, this might take a few attempts, but once you get it, you can jump this way to land on the rocky arch, then drop over the other side to enter the load zone for Frosted Peak, one of the final areas in the entire game. Make sure to walk back to the previous area again to see the cutscene of Triffany and Wambus to make the game register the new area as unlocked and the story as progressed. Doing this will also have unlocked every single tool in the game. And of course, if we return to Snacksburg, we can see that both Chandler and Snorpy, as well as the unmet Cromdo, have all made their way back to town, meaning it's time for another round of interviews. Let's start with Cromdo since we don't really know much about him yet. He's a shady salesman / con artist. He joined the crew for a shot at making it big, selling Bugsnax back home. After Liz went missing, he took it upon himself to salvage her stuff, but according to him, Beffica decided to plant evidence and frame him for stealing, so he got out of Dodge. Unlike most of the other grumps, he doesn't have the highest opinion of Liz and Egg, assuming they only came to Snacktooth to stroke their own egos, and when things started to take a turn for the worse, they took the boat and abandoned everyone. He gives us a map to where the boat was docked and tells us to go look for ourselves if we don't believe him, and if we do, we can find the other half of the code we got from Triffany. Now, let's go talk to Chandler. He came to Snacktooth Island as a means to test his abilities and get stronger, and of course he couldn't have come if Snorpy didn't come along with him. While he respected Liz, he tells us he was much tighter with Eggabell. She even asked him to help train her so she could get stronger. He gives us a video diary he made of one of their training sessions where we can see just how determined Egg was to make herself more useful and stop relying on everyone else all the time. One last interview for now, that being with Snorpy, who insists on his identity being protected so the Grumpinati can't find out his secrets. He reveals he only came to Snacktooth because Chandler wanted him to, and he couldn't say no to him. Despite them clearly being involved, Snorpy seems a little unsure of exactly what their relationship is. He tells us that him and Liz would sometimes tell each other secrets, but that he won't tell us because they're of course secret. But off the record, he tells us about a mysterious door in Frosted Peak Lisbeth found before she vanished, and asks us to be careful while looking into this. With that out of the way, everything in Snacksburg is sorted for now, so let's go hunting for more Grumpuses. If we go to Simmering Springs, we can find the mad scientist from before, who opens up the pathway to the Boiling Bay for us. This is Floofty, mad scientist and Snorpy's sibling. They want us to help continue their research into snackification by feeding them copious amounts of Bugsnax. Firstly, they want us to turn their arm into a red bonopper. These things jump around between some of the trees in the area, much too high and fast for us to nab. To get these, we'll have to use one of the tools we gained with our last skip, that being the trip shot. We can place this on any solid surface, then launch and affix the other end to any other surface to make a tripwire we can use to temporarily stun snacks, making them prime for the catching. If we place the trip shot here and launch the other end high up onto this pole, we can trip up the bonopper and feed it to Floofty. They now ask us to test out their theory that the body can remember what snacks it's eaten by turning both their arm and missing leg into Strappy. After this, they ask us to turn all of their limbs into Cocomites. These guys are a little harder to find if you don't know where to look. Up in some of the palm trees you can find these coconuts. Use your snack grappler to grab one down and chuck it onto the ground. Now lure nearby Paletos to charge it to split it open into a greater and lesser Cocomite. Next, just trip them up with the trip shot or wait for something else to knock them out. Grab them and feed them to Floofty. You only have to feed them one if you want, then have them eat any other vegan snack to transform the required body parts, then use the Snacktivator to turn those into Cocomites as well. Seems like this success makes them go a bit over the top as they now ask us to turn their limbs into 4 different snacks, those being Strabby, Cocomite, Red Bonopper, and Noodler. Strabby and Cocomite are already sorted, and with the Snacktivator we can convert part of their arm into the Red Bonopper we fed them earlier. The problem comes with the Noodler. We can find it in this lava-filled cave over here. Since they're on fire, we can't catch them without getting burned, so harvest some of the hot sauce in the area and use it to lure the Noodler out to be bashed by the cooling Paletos, knocking it out and quenching its flames, making it prime for catching. While looking at it walking around, I had my hopes up that this bug snack might be vegan, but in the journal it's clearly listed as meaty, and on closer inspection I'm pretty sure its eyes are eggs, meaning it's definitely off limits. So can we skip past Floofty somehow to get them back to town? Well, only kind of this time. Head all the way to the Frosted Peak and down this hill till you find this big imposing door. Go to your tool wheel and select the launch pad. This thing lets you aim and send flying anything on top of it. Stand on it and use it to launch yourself up onto this little platform on the door. Next, take out your trip shot and place it around here and aim it towards where the 2 halves of the door meet. Then you kind of just want to sort of move a bit and then you kind of do a bit of this and then you'll phase through the door. Yeah, I don't fully understand the movement for this one. You kind of just jump at and into the trip shot, and if you're lucky, you'll end up on the other side of the door. This one is easily the hardest and least consistent skip from my experience, though I was still able to pull it off 3 times, so it's still very doable. If we walk a little bit forward, the ground will give way underneath us and we'll end up in the Undersnacks, the center of the island. This is the final area of the game where we learn all of the secrets of what happened to Liz and what exactly Bugsnax are. All that's left to do after this is escape the island and we're done. Now, this is where things get a little tricky. Since this gets the last 2 grumps back to town and skips us basically straight to the end of the game, we can technically finish the vegan diet run with Wambus being the only casualty. However, doing it this way also means we skip past every character's side quest, which as far as I'm concerned is mandatory for any playthrough of this game. Sure, we could do most of the characters' side quests before doing this skip, but even then, since we can only get Floofty to town using this skip, we would never be able to complete theirs, which as far as I'm concerned means we can't use it, making Floofty our second casualty in the vegan run. Feed Floofty their Noodler, and with that, they'll decide to head back to Snacksburg in search of more victims. Test subjects. Next up, we're heading to the Sizzling Sands. Here, we meet Shelda. She's a spiritualist, and unlike the other Grumpuses, she believes Bugsnax are toxins that corrupt one's body, and you know what? I think she might have a point. Because of this, she refuses to partake in their consumption, and so asks us to get her some nearby cheese sauce for sustenance. Place down the launch pad to get up on top of this rock to grab the cheese and return to shelter. Now, cheese isn't vegan, but it's also not meat, so I thought that this might make Shelter our first vegetarian for this run. However, on closer inspection, we don't actually ever give her any sauce, and I don't think it leaves our inventory, so I don't know what it is we just fed her, but I'm just gonna assume it was vegan. Next, she wants us to crack open 2 egglers to represent us breaking free of our shells. We can find these eggs in the area, and by putting them in the path of an aggressive Bugsnax, we can get them to break open to free the eggler inside. Once we've done this, return to shelter, and she now wants us to break all obstacles in our path to spiritual enlightenment, and to represent this, she wants us to break apart 2 pink cantuses. Yeah, starting to think what she's spewing might be a bit more dumb than whiz if you catch my drift, but in any case. We can lure the cantus over to the water to get them wet, for some reason starting a timer for them to explode into their individual parts. Next, Shelter asks us to guide a black raspberry from the underground ruins to her side. I don't know, for some reason, I'm sure. We can get into the ruins by coating this platform with hot sauce to lure the flying snack into bashing it open. Then, just simply lure the black raspberry through the maze with chocolate sauce, and once outside, Shelter will finally head back to Snacksburg to spread her teachings. Much like with Gramble, Shelter never actually asks us to feed her any Bugsnax for her part of the main quest, making keeping her on a vegan diet actually dev intended. If we return to Snacksburg, we can see just how lively the place has gotten. I think it's time for another quick round of interviews. First off, let's talk to Floofty. As we know, they're a scientist researching the effects of Bugsnax on the Grumpus body, or snackification. Due to their unethical research practices and lack of care for anything other than their work, they've developed a bit of a reputation, one that stuck with them on the island, leading some to suspect them when Liz disappeared. At least one Grump wasn't afraid of them, that being Eggabell, who offered herself up to help Floofty's testing to feel more useful. This heavily upset Liz though, due to the extreme side effects of overconsumption of snacks was having on Egg's body, leading to Floofty and Lisbeth not having a fondness for each other. They give us a key for Eggabell's personal storage box, but we don't know where it is yet. For our final interview, go talk to Shelter. She's only actually here because she won a ticket in a raffle, which she of course tries to spin as the universe calling her to Snacksburg. She tells us she had continuously warned everyone not to eat Bugsnax as they were corrupting their bodies, but no one listened to her, not even Lisbeth. She gives us a locked box and we can use the key from Floofty to open it for our final video diary. This one shows Liz talking about a mysterious door she's found and about to journey out to open it when Eggabell interrupts, asking her to come along. The two seem to be making amends, and despite Liz's concerns for Egg's safety, she agrees to let her tag along. After this, the two of them vanished. There's one Grumpus still missing who might just have the most insight into what happened to Lisbeth, that being her partner, Eggabell. If we head for Frosted Peak, we can find her hiding inside a cave. She's shocked to see us and strongly advises us to get off the mountain for our own sake, as it's not safe here due to the frequent earthquakes. She's apparently gotten a lot tougher since we saw her in the last clip, since despite the dangers, she's been surviving here for weeks on her own, looking for Lisbeth. Apparently, while they were exploring together, an earthquake separated them. Unfortunately, she has no interest in coming back without Liz and begs us to just go home and not tell anyone else we found her before running off. With a little bit of stalking, we can follow her to that big door we skipped through earlier that Liz and Egg went to investigate before Liz got lost. She's obviously not too happy about us following her, but eventually tells us that she's trying to get into the door because she thinks Liz might be beyond it, but is struggling without Liz's notes, which luckily we just so happen to have. Apparently, we need to feed the 6 statues by the door the snack they represent, and after a little bit of pushing, Egg agrees to let us help and handle half of the snack collecting. You can do any 3 of the 6 snacks, but for this run I'll just be doing the ones on the left, namely Chippy, Flutterjam, and Scoopy. Out of these, only Flutterjam could be considered vegan, however, since the statues don't actually eat them, there's no harm done. Chippy is the easiest, just set up a tripwire in its path and it'll be yours. For Flutterjam, grab some of the peanut butter and coat them in the stuff, causing them to close up and fall from the sky, making them easy to net. Getting a Scoopy requires a bit more work. Lure the Scoopy Banoopy over to the nearby fire to start a countdown for it to break apart. One of its parts is of course Scoopy, which we can use chocolate sauce to lure over to the fire to cause it to defrost, making it catchable. Feed the snacks to the appropriate statue and Eggabell will come with the last of the snacks and check to make sure we aren't injured. After continuing reading Lisbeth's notes, we realise we're going to need 3 Grumpuses for the final step. Eggabell is reluctant, but eventually decides to get Filbo to help since Liz always trusted him, so we return to town to get him. Once there, Filbo makes a good observation that it doesn't seem likely that Liz will be behind the door if it requires 3 Grumpuses to open, but Egg doesn't see any other possibility. With the 3 of us combined, we stand on the 3 buttons and push, but it doesn't work, instead causing a bunch of rocks to almost crush us. With this, Egg demands we go home for our own safety and beats herself up over being a burden. She admits that Liz and her didn't just get separated. She was trying to show off how strong she'd become and messed up, and while trying to save her, Liz got swallowed up by an earthquake. With some wise words, Filbo convinces Eggabell that she is useful and not a burden. She still needs some time to think though, and decides to stay on the mountain for now. With that, most of the main questline is done, and all the Grumpuses we can get back to town are back, with only Wambus and Floofty having broken Vegan Edge so far, though we have had to skip most of the game to do it. All that's left now is to do each character's individual side quest and the final bit of the story, but I think that'll have to wait till next time, as if I put all of it into this video, it would be a little on the long side. So, thanks for watching. I've gotten a new microphone and I'm still trying to learn how to use it, so sorry if the audio was a bit weird in this one. Please, if you enjoyed, consider liking the video, and if you want to be around when this run continues, why not subscribe? I'll see you next week with part 2, and until then, I'm Katie Cat, and thank you for watching.